Hello and welcome back to Rapid Flow. This is the third installment in this video series where I'm showing you how to use the Rapid Flow workflow with Bitwig and how to compose with it in real time. There's a video on setup and there's also a video on how you can create your own ideas in this workflow. But in this video, we're going to be looking at how you can take those scene groupings and turn them into a track sequence in real time using a controller. So let me show you how easy it is to do this. I'm going to switch over my view to the arranger view, and a huge thanks to Nate Protoculture for providing the demo track we're going to use for this. It's part of the template. You have it in there so you can also see how he's done stuff, as well as Ralph Braincell, who also provided demo tracks but who also upgraded the older V2 Rapid Flow workflow into this V3 now, which has all the new plugins, all the new things that are available in Bitwig. So I'm going to show you now how to turn this into the track idea. And maybe one small detail, I've mapped this knob here to be able to bring the kick in and out where I want, rather than it just being on the fader. So I'm going to start record here now, and I'm going to be tracking in all the changes I do on my controller so that I have it all as automation. Okay, I hope that gives you an initial idea of what I've done here now. If I go into the automation lanes, you can see that actually everything I just did is neatly captured in here now in automation. And a lot of the stuff will also be in the super channel, which actually will have multiple automation lanes of stuff happening in here that you can dig through here. For example, I know I use, for example, the delay too. Like all that stuff is now available to me to, if I messed up something or if anything went weird, I can actually go back in and fix it. Like maybe I came in too late with one of my kick drums, or I don't know, something like that. It's possible. But generally speaking, actually, like that felt like it was a pretty nice progression. And the goal here is that you can do this multiple times in real time using your controller and just really trusting your intuition and your feeling of how you feel the track wants to develop, and just expressing that and then using the DAW like an instrument rather than, you know, dragging all the blocks across the screen and kind of copy pasting and then drawing in all the automation curves, because believe me, you're way faster if you're using 10 fingers than if you're using just one mouse and even a trackball. Plus, it's just way more fun. Like you can, it's kind of like someone said to us, it's kind of like DJing with multiple tracks, so that you have your, you know, your live performance effects, which is the stuff that I was showing you over here at the top. You have obviously the faders for all the individual sounds that are running in your track. And the cool thing is now I can actually go into my arrange view and listen to this track sketch, first attempt at creating a sequence. And as you'll see, I've actually written in a ton of automation and like a whole direction for how this track could start. Let's have a listen. So as you can see, everything I just did is captured in here as automation. It's very easy for me to adjust these things and move them around and maybe copy paste certain sections or remove some stuff if I overdid it, you know, the classic thing of maybe doing too much. But generally speaking, I think it gives you a very clear indication how hands-on and real-time you can use our workflow to not only sketch out an idea, but then also progress it into a sequence really easily, really quickly, and see how strong the idea is and if it holds up with just 8 tracks, and if you can lay down a sequence that feels engaging with just 8 tracks. Of course, if you're going to add another, you know, 5 or 10 maybe with like risers or snare rolls, if that's your thing, or maybe vocals or some white noise or sound effects or impacts, it's all going to just feel much more cohesive and immersive. But if a track idea works like this with just one controller and just controlling things and bringing things in and out, you'll be sure that it's a very strong track idea. So the goal here is to be able to make the sequencing process feel much more fluid, much more intuitive. Like, even though maybe you will do some things like make sure your kick comes in on the 9 so it's DJ friendly, so they kind of know where, you know, the next kick is going to come if they're mixing over your track. I found very often when using this kind of a workflow with the way I also make music, of course, personally with a bigger version of this template, which is why I have multiple controllers in front of me. It's called the Infinity Bundle. What I was getting to is I get to places in my music, in my sequence, in the vibe of the effects and everything in a way that's much more intuitive and actually much more interesting than if I'm doing this rationally with my brain and a mouse and dragging blocks and lines across the screen, because you just do things you would never really think to do very intuitively by bringing up all these controllers and then just getting a feeling for how things are sounding. I've had tracks where the reverb and the delay has been open across the whole track minus kick and bass for like 3 minutes of the track, just because it sounded so cool on like this weird atmospheric piano that I had, and then I took it out for like the drop. So not something I would think to do normally. It goes against everything you learn in sound engineering to just put a huge reverb on everything, but you just do stuff differently by doing it this way. And if some of you have been wondering, like, yeah, it's cool if you've added all this, you know, stuff with these controllers and it's like this big sound that you're building up, how do you get back to the basic clean sound without all the DJ effects? In the back of the APC here, there's a little plug that I've adapted to save some space, but this is basically going down to here, which is this very cheap M Audio foot switch. I think it's called like M10 or something or other. And this makes the whole super channel effects chain bypass. So let me bring you over here and show it to you. If I push this foot switch, as you can see, if I switch over to this view, as you can see over here, you see this mapping here? Watch what happens if I click the foot switch. You see, all the effects get bypassed. So this is your way, when you've built up a huge thing and you want to drop down again to the clean sound of whatever track you've produced, you just hit this and then you have time manually to take back all the rotary encoders to their neutral positions. So yeah, little workflow with this foot switch here that I think will be very useful to you also. I want to end off this video by first of all saying a huge thank you to a lot of people that were instrumental in inspiring me to create this workflow and template. First and foremost, Frank Wiedemann, whose masterclass I did, who really got me thinking differently about production workflow. Also Sebastian Müllert, whose masterclass I can highly recommend and is incredible. But also people like Deadmau5, who has all kinds of tricks he's shared online over the years that are integrated in this from a mixing perspective, from the mastering chain, the channel settings on all the individual channels that also have all kinds of things happening in them. As well as Paul Kalkbrenner, for example, who I picked up this thing of having all the faders at the top so that when you come back to your track and you bring up all the faders, basically your mix sounds correct. Like, there's just so much knowledge from all these amazing musicians who have shared this over the years that I've put in this and then combined it with my sound engineering knowledge, as well as samples taken from the instruments that you see here around me in the studio. So this concludes this series for how you can work with this workflow. If you have any questions, we're always happy to help you over on support@rapidflow.shop. We have bigger versions of these templates, of course, with more instruments, more capabilities, more controllers, so you have individual control over every instrument, looping workflow, all that stuff we've already developed. So if you want to check that out, go over on rapidflow.shop. And if I want to leave you with a small teaser on something we're working on right now. This is our virtual instrument that's coming out in the next few weeks, months. Let's see how we're doing. If you join the newsletter, you will be updated. We've tried to make an instrument that combines usability with not too much stuff, just to be able to really get your sound dialed in as you want it without being overwhelmed with millions of options and controllers. However, the cool thing about this instrument is that it uses all these synthesizers that we have here in the studio were recorded through that tape machine, Prism Orpheus converters, all this super nice output, and I sampled all these instruments note by note, so that when I play them here in the studio or you play them from the synth, they sound identical. And you basically get access to patches from all of these synths that we've developed and processed with all this gear, so that you can use the quality of these kinds of instruments in your productions. So Zensphere, it's going to be out soon. Please join our newsletter to find out more. Of course, we're going to have an early bird introductory price offer and all these kinds of things. So that's it from me today. Let me see if I can get this thing here out of my way, because of course my battery for these wireless headphones went down as soon as I started making these videos. Yes, that's it for me today here, saying goodbye to you from the south of Portugal, close to Beja, where we live. Check out the Flow Retreat over on rapidflow.shop, which is an in-person retreat that we're going to be doing here in September, which, if you want to explore the crossover field between meditation, yoga, somatic practices, incredibly healthy food, social media detox, and music production, learning more about how we work with this, as well as getting guidance from our mastering engineer, Daniel Zuderberg, on mastering your tracks, who's going to be here with us in Portugal. Also, check out the Flow Retreat, also linked over on rapidflow.shop. And that is it for me today. I want to say a big thanks to Bitwig for this amazing collaboration. I've worked with Bitwig from the very beginning of the company. I actually used to be their German sales rep, and always been in touch with them, and very happy now that we're going to be offering this workflow for anyone that's using Bitwig on an active upgrade subscription to just grab for free. It's added in your account. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you think of this. Please leave comments or send us an email or anything like that. Of course, we're grateful for your reviews. And other than that, I hope you have a great time in the studio, and I'll see you on some next video over on our YouTube or on our newsletter. All right, I'm going to play this track sketch that we had going here to exit this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.